Welcome back to another Monday Market Update. My name is Brad Lupkus with Frontier Bank Wealth Management and Trust, and here's what the markets did last week. Last week was another great week for investors as major indexes across the board continued to set record highs last week. For the week, the S&P 500 was up 1.75%, bringing its year-to-date returns now up to 16.5%. Looks at the performance of small companies here in the United States. That index was up a little over 2% last week, bringing its year-to-date numbers up to 14.8%. If we look overseas, the developed markets index was up a little over 1% last week, bringing its year-to-date totals up to 5.85%. And then the last one is the emerging markets index. That index was up 1.65% last week, bringing its year-to-date totals now up to 14.75%. So all in all, a very good week for investors. There's been three areas that have really come into focus for the economy and for the market here recently. We'll start with the most important one, which has been the development of a vaccine. There's no question that the mass distribution of a safe and effective vaccine truly does represent the turning point in this pandemic. And ultimately, the development of a vaccine, the mass distribution of a vaccine, is what's going to allow all of us to get back to living a normal life and what will allow this economy to return to normal. When we compare that to the current state of the economy, it's a little bit more concerning. Short term, there are a lot of challenges that the economy is currently facing. We have obviously seen a rising in cases here in the United States and over in Europe of the coronavirus, and that unfortunately has led to the repeated attempts of a shutdown in parts of the country and over in Europe that we tried back in the spring. Now, just back in the springtime, it had a negative effect on the economy back then, and it's having a negative effect on the economy right now, particularly for small businesses and for businesses that are in the service sector. So think of restaurants, hotels, entertainment and travel businesses, things like that. Which brings us to our third area of focus, and that is the renewed sense that we're likely going to see another round of stimulus come out from the federal government. And the hope, the expectation is that this second round of stimulus will be what's needed to help a lot of small businesses survive these next couple months before we get to a renewed opening of the economy, and what will hopefully allow those who are unemployed to make ends meet for the next couple months until we can get back to life as normal. So when you take these three things combined, and then when you take into consideration the fact that the stock market is typically forward thinking, and what I mean by that is that the market isn't necessarily interested in what's going on in the economy right now. Instead, the market is looking forward 6 to 12 months, and it's trying to predict what the economy is going to look like in 6 to 12 months. And this optimism that we have surrounding this has been the major reason why we have seen the stock market rise double digits since the beginning of November, and why we are continuing to see all-time highs set in the market in the last several weeks. So all in all, my advice to investors, it's not changed. Make sure that you have a plan laid out for your investments. Make sure you're well diversified across different types of investments, and try not to make emotional decisions when it comes to your investments. Thank you again for watching this week. If you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, and we'll see you next week.